Hello and welcome to our 31st edition of FSI Fridays. I'm Edwin, live in Boston, joined by
Johansson live in Charlotte.
Hey Johansson, happy Friday. What do we have lined up today?
Thanks, Edwin, and those in the audience for joining today. We're going to talk about the transformational challenges finance organizations have when it comes to leveraging technology to enhance their overall productivity experience.
Next, we'll talk about real scenarios Microsoft was tasked with and how we came up with an execution model that supported the transformation.
And last, we're going to see demos on how Microsoft's finance organization collaborated internally and leveraged low-code, no-code, and business intelligence tools to increase productivity.
Then we'll wrap it up with Q&A.
Today on FSI Fridays.
For those of you watching live or on YouTube, as a quick reminder, we'll spend around 30 minutes on today's topic and leave the last 10 minutes for any burning questions.
So please use the Q&A window and we'll monitor for questions during the presentation. If you're watching the recording, feel free to use the comments below to ask your questions.
So let's get started and meet the presenters for today. Johansson, who's our special guest this week?
We're thrilled to be joined again by Corey Hernserich, Modern Finance Lead for the Office of the CFO. Corey, can you share with our audience, for those that missed this last episode, what your role is at Microsoft and what your typical day is like? We also heard that you have an interesting way of spending your Saturdays.
Yeah, thanks, Johansson. It's great to be back. Hi, everybody. So Corey Hernserich, I work in the office of our CFO here at Microsoft and coordinate for her our Modern Finance Initiative, which focuses on encouraging our teams to innovate, to build their own capabilities, and to share best practices. In terms of my Saturdays during COVID, I found a unique way to get a little workout. We actually own a little land here a few miles from our house, and it's new to us, and there's lots of trees that are dead or dying. And so I've learned to be a bit of a lumberjack. It's a good workout actually to clear some land and chop up a bunch of wood. So something I didn't think I'd be doing maybe a year ago, but it's been a fun way to spend my Saturdays out in the beauties of the Pacific Northwest here in the Seattle area.
Thanks for sharing that, Corey. I hear Lumberjack and I think of one of my favorite shows until the last season, Dexter. Just Lumberjack and Dexter. So I don't know if anyone else watches that, but thanks for sharing that. So Amol, you're also joining us for the second week in a row. Can you briefly tell the audience what your responsibilities are as a financial services strategy director for the U.S. Financial Services? And we also hear cold weather isn't stopping you from playing a sport normally not done in sub-zero temperature.
I'm very, very excited to be back here. Hello, everyone. So my name is Amol Silat. I live in New Jersey in like a really cold weather. My current role in Microsoft is I am a director of solution strategy. So my role entails taking customer challenges, converting them into solutions that will help them realize their business case. Interesting thing about the sport that I picked up during COVID is tennis. Right, tennis is an outdoor sport, but if you look at during winters, people usually move in indoors, but because of COVID, nobody was ready to play indoors. So we started playing Sub-Zero. And in fact, one of the days we cleaned snow we shoveled snow from the tennis courts and did not shovel our own driveways, but we played tennis. So it's interesting to pick up that game and helps us with exercise.
Thanks, Amol. So let's jump right in. Last week, we talked about how the Modern Finance Organization really transformed its operations. So can you lay the foundation for the rest of this session and talk about how and validate maybe the challenges that finance organizations are facing and maybe why this transformation can really help alleviate these challenges?
So if you look at most of the challenges that we take last time, we talked about some high level challenges. Today, what we want to do a double click on those challenges, and also later part of this session, we want to look at some of the art of possible use cases. So how to overcome these challenges with Microsoft tools. Now, if you look at on this slide, there are a few challenges that I talked about last time as well. Is budget constraints. Finance function is always constrained with the cost, and hence there is a time and resource constraint every time because there's a lot of external pressure in terms of dates. Then you have to meet, and there is time and resource constraint. And then If you look at the business always looks at finance for insights, whereas what they get from finance is data, which is not very valuable. And hence there's always a pressure from business to act as a business partner. In finance, typically, if you look at, we deal with so many suppliers and so many vendors and so many customers. Not all customers and suppliers are technologically that savvy. Hence, we deal with a lot of papers, and there's so much paper trails, so much audit trails. Uh, Most of the finance processes are really, really complex. For example, intercompany accounting, right? For a large bank, which has multiple subsidiaries in multiple geographies, there is this FX impact and other things makes it very, very difficult process. So we deal with so many complex processes in finance. Ones on the bottom of the slide are all related to IT. So for example, in finance, you have legacy systems, you have shadow IT, because a lot of time finance team create their own IT organization. You leverage technology which is age old. You also have challenges with IT and finance partnership. And not least, but it is security. In security, if you look at it, finance is a function, carries the data that is really, really confidential. And if you don't have the right security, that's a big challenge for us, right? And also we have to comply with so many external compliance, which puts additional pressure on finance.
No, thanks for sharing that, Amol. So Corey, there's a huge range of transformation opportunities. So based on these challenges that Amol discussed, how would financial organizations work alongside IT to tackle these complex organizational requirements and make this a smooth experience?
Yeah, it's a question that we get a lot. It's a question that we ask ourselves a lot, frankly, which is here at Microsoft, we have a phenomenal IT organization, as many companies do. And we appreciate everything that they do for us. I think I called them out last time as well. I'd say what's shifting for us is that partnership between finance and IT. And in a couple of ways, and I'll share what I mean in just a second. On this slide, you actually see this execution model that we think about when we talk about our own digital transformation here at Microsoft. On the right, you see a lot of the org-wide, mission-critical, complex processes and platforms that are truly supported by IT. So just to give you an example of those, when we talk about migrating SAP to Azure or re-architecting our entire data platform and all of the tools, that is all some heavy lifting that our IT organization owns. They have great metrics and scorecards, and they have the know-how for doing those things. So we don't get in their way too much, but we do try to help guide them. Obviously, we're trying to help them understand finance, understand our end goals, and we're doing much more of that. I'd say what's new to us, and I think where the focus of our conversation will be today, is on the left side of this slide, which is how we empower our local finance people, our analysts, our accountants, to actually go and drive personal and team productivity, and also some of the last mile simple business solutions that they need. And we'll give you some examples of what we mean there. But what we're seeing is this awesome kind of blossoming of our people to be able to become citizen developers. What does that mean? They have now, with very little training, the ability to go solve some of the biggest pain points that they experience that perhaps aren't met by the IT efforts on the right side. Because let's face it, our IT organizations have lots of priorities, and their priorities aren't necessarily gonna help every single person in our organizations. But the great empowering thing now is that we can solve our own last mile challenges, those things that may not be on the high priority list for IT.
Thanks for sharing that, Corey. Amol, from a financial services organization lens, how have you seen FSI organizations leverage tools to drive innovation in these organizations?
Absolutely. So if you look at most of the financial services organizations that we work with, and most of them are already our customers, most of them use Office 365 suite of products. If you're using M365, Office 365, you have access to all the tools that you see on this screen, right? So that's in your pocket. Now, the maturity the adoption, the utilization of those tools vary among our clients, right? For example, if I compare that with Microsoft, in Microsoft we have these same tools, but we use it to a big extent, not to 100%, but now we use it for innovation, not just for productivity. To give you examples, we use Teams as our single pane of glass. We use Teams as our landing page. When we get into our laptops in the morning, we don't go to Outlook, we go to Teams. We do our collaboration, we do our communication, we do our dashboards, we do our tasks, we do our co-authoring documents, all in Teams. Similarly, if you look at my workplace analytics, I mean, during COVID times, Microsoft actually made use of this analytics tool to help us look at well-being of our employees. And hence, even in finance function, we wanted to make sure our employees are not overworked. And this really helped us. And if you look at other tools like Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, which helped our business users actually create their own apps, create their own processes, automate a lot of processes with low code, no code. So this really helped us improve our productivity, reduce our cost of ownership, and improve our intelligence.
Thanks, Amal. So, Corey, working in the office of the CFO, I know our audience would really appreciate if you could share some scenarios that our customers here in financial services can relate to. Can you maybe share a real example where Microsoft's finance organization needed to find ways to collaborate in a more efficient way to prepare for a big event?
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. And there are so many. I think we have 3,600 people in our finance group, and there are 3,600 different ways to use all those tools that Amol just shared to get work done, and it's been especially important to leverage those tools. I'll talk about one process in particular, which will resonate with any public company, and that is for Microsoft, the earnings release process. This is a process that has a lot of controls around it. Obviously, for us, a very strict process, very tight timelines, and requires the collaboration of many stakeholders. And we've seen this entire process be completely simplified and transformed due to those tools that you showed on the prior slide.
Oh, that's great. So that makes sense. But who are the stakeholders for driving this project, and what was the hierarchy of contributors? So I can only imagine it, takes the effort it takes to coordinate all these people to drive a unified message.
It does, yes, and this process in particular touches so many people across the organization, right? Not just in finance, but outside. And so you'll see on the right side here, you see some of the key contributors to this earnings process. Obviously, our CEO, CFO, and our CAO, our Chief Accounting Officer, are all working in lockstep as they put together these releases. They're supported by great teams, our central finance team, investor relations, legal, corporate accounting, etc. All have a major role to play, and all need to collaborate in real time. And that obviously, a year ago, they would lock themselves in conference rooms and talk this out and kind of work together. And more than ever over the past several quarters, all of this has become virtual for everybody, right? Not just us. And so you see on the left side, all of these review meetings, hours and hours of meetings have not only been in many ways streamlined and simplified due to these processes, but some meetings that we actually don't list on the slide have been entirely eliminated. We've saved so many hours through this process by leveraging those tools.
So Corey, I know our CFO, Amy Hood. I've heard she's a great collaborator and really involved in making sure that our messaging is precise and resonates with the audience. Can you share an example of how she is able to provide input and then also collaborate with others seamlessly?
Yeah, Amy is definitely a great collaborator. She's very involved in all these processes. And what we really appreciate about Amy is that she has embraced this collaboration and used it to really simplify a lot of the meetings and a lot of the traditional back and forth, which either would happen in a meeting, long hours of meetings, or would happen over email. What you see on the slide actually is a quick view used with permission of our investor relations team. This is some collaboration that they did working on our, I think it was a 10Q a few quarters ago. And you see here the way that Amy now collaborates. Rather than having a meeting, rather than starting to send a bunch of emails, she now will just mention people or just make a comment directly in the earnings release doc and say, hey, like this doesn't quite sit right. Is there another way we can phrase this? And you see here people jumping in from investor relations and other orgs to come up with a different approach. And so this now has just eliminated, a 30-minute meeting, for example, this really quick back and forth right here. You don't have to go guess where this information is. You don't have to track down the email thread. It's all living right in the document, and people can collaborate in real time with our CFO, which is just so impactful for us.
Corey, you just said something that completely resonates with me, eliminating 30-minute meetings. If I could do that a few times a day, I could definitely be more productive. So it's great to see that. Corey, our audience really loves demos, and seeing that screenshot with Amy Hood definitely starts to make this real. Can you share your screen and show us some highlights of how the Microsoft team coordinates, collaborates, and integrates productivity in a secure way?
Yeah, I'm happy to share my screen. So here we are in actually my personal team's environment. You can see the teams I actually collaborate in, some of them on the left-hand side. I work in the office of the CFO, so we've got our own Teams channel. I lead the Modern Finance Initiative. We've set up one for this demo today. We've got learning paths, and then I've got many more. And you see on the left hand all the cool stuff I can do. We don't have time to go over all that, but obviously this manages my calendar. I can chat one-on-one or to different people who may not be part of a team. I can share files. I've embedded my Power BI. So Teams really is our one-stop shop, which is really cool. What we wanted to show you today was, right now I'm in this kind of general tab. You can see I've got some different channels for COGS accounting and compliance and consolidation, treasury, different components of that close process. And so we can actually even have private channels. So for example, our compliance team may want to work on certain aspects of close without other members of the team being a part of those conversations. They can do that. But right now we're in the general channel. That means everybody who's a member of this team can see this. And as you can see, we've already got a thread going on here. We're adding files. Amol and I, who you've met, we've been chatting a little bit about our latest 10Q documents, which you can see we've saved here.
Yeah, so, Corey, I see that there is that PowerPoint file and Word file in there. Is that something you're collaborating on as part of the conversation? And, could you show us how that works in context of the conversation as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can be collaborating in real time, which is the great thing about Teams. So as soon as I saved it here, it automatically put those files in my file structure here. You can see we actually just uploaded some of those documents here, and we can literally be, kind of talking about it in real time. But if we open up, say, the Word document, you can see several of us are in there right now. I can see you, Edwin, and Johansson, and Amol. We're all there, and in fact, we're on page looks like 36. And in fact, the cool thing is we can see exactly what's happening in real time. We can all be co-authoring this. This is such a time saver when we think about all those different parties and stakeholders that we mentioned needing to collaborate on the document. And so this is just something that we'll do kind of in our normal flow of work, is let people actually make changes as we go along. And you can see, we're getting some great commentary added into our 10Q. So if you see this, out on our official investor relations webpage, don't be surprised. But that's just a quick demo of the Word. Maybe we can jump over to PowerPoint too. So in PowerPoint, similarly, you can see this one I'm actually sharing with Amol here. He's in the document. And I'll show off another feature that we just love. I mean, this is something we use not only for earnings, but literally for every finance review that we ever do. We'll quickly share these files. So rather than sending an email, we can just hit share and send this, like in this case, I can send it to, Edwin, for example, and you'll see Azure Active Directory will kind of recognize that, and I'll be able to go in and select and share with Edwin and share this so that he could pop in here too. Amol's already here, and so I'll turn on the commentary, and I may want to make a commentary about this piece. So, we open this comment button. I can see actually that Edwin just popped in here, and he's on slide 8 as well. So just like the Word document, we could also co-author this. But the @mention feature, which we can do, by the way, in Word, in PowerPoint, in Excel. We can also @mention, Amol, Salat, for example, in this case, and I can say, can you take a look at the gross margin comment, right? And I send this to Amol, and without sending him an email, without sending him an IM in Teams even, he's getting this notification on his side. He can research it, and then he can respond right here with a comment. And this has streamlined our entire review process at Microsoft. So we'll prepare material for our CFO, for example. We'll send it to her. She'll come back and she'll make comments. She'll mention people, and we've been able to cut out hours and hours of work through simple back and forth collaboration like that. And here we go. You see Edwin is coming back and actually, saying that he thinks it looks great. He's mentioning both of us so that we get that notification. So just super seamless, very simple, great way to collaborate.
Thanks, Corey. I think that's really powerful in just the way you're able to work multiple people on the same file. You'll be able to comment and track it. And you're doing this all inside of Teams. Like, I think it may be lost on some people here that you're doing this inside of a desktop experience, but you could also just click on that, that Word file and actually view it inside of Teams and be able to edit that file inside of Teams as well, or pop it out into your desktop view and edit it. So I think that's really powerful as well.
Such a great point. Yeah. And in fact, let me show you this. We love this feature, right? So we've added an extra kind of tab here for financial statements, and we've just embedded our Excel file from the 10K directly here in Teams. So we don't even have to leave this environment, and we can actually be doing all that co-authoring right here, just the same way I just showed you. I can copy a link, I can do the comments, I can catch up with what's going on. I can actually even set up a quick meeting, for example, and kind of on the fly in real time. So just streamlines the way that we work from start to finish.
Thanks for sharing that really awesome demo, Corey. It was really great to see how you were able to co-author, really use Teams as that hub for teamwork. You use that as part of that earnings process, but I can just imagine all the different scenarios our financial services customers can actually use this to really do it and do it in a secure way. So Amol, we briefly touched upon that low-code, no-code technology to empower our financial services customers to harness their data and gain insights to drive some of that intelligent business processes. Can you give us an overview of maybe the Power Platform and some of the ways our financial services customers may be using them today? And you know what? Let's get Corey to take this, since he's probably built some of these types of tools with the Power Platform.
Yeah, thanks so much, Johnson. We love the Power Platform here in finance at Microsoft. We honestly are the biggest fans. It started for us with Power BI a number of years ago. That really opened people's eyes and their horizons to be able to build these beautiful interactive dashboards and really drill into numbers. When it first launched, actually, it was a feature in Excel, and so it was really natural for our finance people to start using Power BI. And that's now evolved into a suite of tools that help us do this kind of citizen developer work. These are all low-code, no-code tools. So that means you don't have to go back to school. You don't have to learn computer science. You don't have to do any programming. It's literally if you can work in Excel, you can do all of these things. It's kind of some of them are a combination between Excel and PowerPoint. Power Apps is the tool that we use to build applications. We use that a lot for anytime we need to gather information or requirements or attachments or anything like that. Power Automate helps us automate workflows and helps us stitch together different pieces of our process. Power Virtual Agents is a great tool to build some virtual agents, chatbots, to give answers to common questions. And then underneath this, there's actually a bunch of other tools, like there's a bunch of data connectors, so you can tap into many different data sources. It doesn't have to be just Microsoft tech, but there's great connectors to many other services. AI Builder helps us actually integrate some of the cognitive services. So things like translation or vision, to read contracts, things like that. And then there's a common data service, which stores all the data for all of these things, and we'll show you a bit of what that looks like. But yeah, we're big fans. A lot of these tools are fairly new in the past couple of years, and already they've made a huge impact for us here in Microsoft Finance.
That's great, Corey. How has Microsoft Finance organization leveraged Power Platform? And can you talk about specific use cases where this has really enhanced productivity?
Yeah, thanks, Edwin. So many use cases. I list a few on the slide here, and can just give you a little sample. I tried to give a flavor from different organizations. So you see from procurement, when the pandemic hit, they did some really cool work to actually build a work from home equipment buying platform using Power Platform. We use it to streamline our off-cycle payment requests. For our internal audit group uses it in FinOps for streamlining some of the accounts payable, treasury for managing their intercompany loan portfolio, and then we also have some great application in tax and many, many more. The cool thing about each of these is that they were built by finance or accounting or procurement professionals with very little training. Usually people can do, a day-long class, and they already are, capable enough to build some pretty cool applications. And you see some of the results at the bottom. I mean, I don't have to read them all off, but we're saving time, we're saving money, we're driving better customer satisfaction, we're reducing steps, we're creating better compliance, better audit trails. And these are things, again, that our finance people are building on their own. So super impactful, and happy to share a specific example of how easy it is to use these.
Thanks, Corey. It's really powerful to see just the amount of time you're saving in building these low-code solutions. So like we talked about before, our audience loves demos. Do you mind sharing your screen and walking us through maybe a few of these examples of how you leverage the Power Platform?
Yeah, happy to. I'll share with you a quick example of exactly how easy it is to use these tools, and then tie it back. We're actually going to do something like our procurement example here of how we bought this equipment and how we still buy equipment for people while they're working from home. I'm sharing my screen now. I hope you can see it. What we've mocked up here, this is actually some training that Microsoft does with to help people onboard to Power Apps called App in a Day. So I've just leveraged their environment here to show off something that, again, they took from our procurement team when COVID hit and we had to help people working from home get new devices or monitors or keyboards. Our procurement group set up a really quick Power App and some approvals and a Power BI to manage this process in literally just a couple of days. And immediately we're able to support our organization, the entire company, to have the devices that they need to stay productive. And the way that they did that was using first Power Apps. What you're looking at here is this Power App authoring environment. And as you can see, it's kind of a mix between PowerPoint, and it's got a formula bar, which is kind of like Excel. It's really easy to pick up. What we find is using some of those kind of app in a day type courses, within a few hours, our people can be trained up to use these tools because they're so easy. And I'll show you why. Here, for example, I've already built it so you can kind of see what it looks like. But you can see here's this diverse device purchasing app. And what we're trying to do is, essentially build an app so that we can have people select a new machine that they want. And so I've got some buttons, and you can see I can actually change this. I can say just clear selections, for example. I can edit any of these components that I want if I click on them and I say diverse device purchasing app, or maybe I want to call this the work from home purchasing app or something like that. Really, really easy to make all these changes. You can see I've got a device gallery here, and maybe I decide I want the title up here and I want the picture here. It's just, as you can see, super, super easy, very responsive. This is what we call low code, no code. And I can actually show you kind of how it would work in process if you'd like.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. If you could just walk us through maybe how someone would view this. I can see, it's really easy for you to kind of build these types of applications. And I love the analogy you gave, and we've done this previously for other Power Platform sessions that we've done inside of FSI Fridays, the Excel and PowerPoint, had a baby, and out came Power Apps. So let's see it in action.
Yeah, perfect. So if I hit play over here, you can see what the users would see. They'll come into this app. They'd be able to see, click on these different manufacturers of devices, Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, etc. And maybe, obviously they're looking for devices that they may want to buy. We've filtered them here or sorted them in descending order by price. So they may want this Lenovo here, they may want also, they're looking at this Alienware laptop. Maybe they want to do a little gaming on the side. Maybe they like a Sony, they kind of like the Sony Vaio here because it's kind of cool and convertible. And you can see as I'm actually doing this button lit up down here so that I can now click this and compare selected items. And when I do those 3 items that I selected are automatically here. There's a little bit more detail, and I can go in then and say, I want actually maybe the Lenovo, and I say, need this to stay productive, right? And as soon as I hit submit, then it goes off and we'll hit my manager. We'll talk about what happens next in just a second. But, literally, I built this app that you're looking at here in less than an hour. Super simple. The data is all being stored in what we call the common data service. Very easy to build, very responsive, just super easy. So that's how you would build an app. And then I'd love to show you too, unless you have any questions, how we actually manage some of the approvals and other things which are common finance scenarios.
Corey, thanks for showing us, now that you submitted the app, can you walk us through that experience and what it looks like for the user?
Yeah, of course. So, this is what the first user's kind of interface with or interaction, with this application is going to look like. But what happens on the back end, I think, is magic, right? Because what happens as soon as I hit that, purchase selected items, what happens then is Power Automate picks it up. And because that new device order was just logged, it's going to kick off this approval process. And again, just like building that Power app, we were able to build this very easy approval. And we do a lot of approvals in finance. And so something like this is just amazing, the amount of time it can spend, because we were able to set up a quick approve, reject type scenario here, where we, again, similar to what, I was just showing you how easy it is. I can then pull in and I can say, hey, we want to assign this to the approver. Details, a new device has been requested. Here's some details. I can even add more, right? I can say, I got to look at here what I want to say, but I can say, here is the device order, right? And I can add that from my rich list of fields that are in my common data service. I can add that to this approval. I add all this info in here, and then of course I need my conditions. So I say this as soon as this piece is generated, then this approver is going to automatically get an email in their inbox that has all these details. A new device has been requested. Here's the device name. Here's the price. Here's the device order details. Here's the comments from the employee. What do you want to do? You want to approve or reject? So they'll have a simple button. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. If they click yes, we've created a workflow so that the record order, the device order, will be updated with approved. You can kind of see down here, and a timestamp. And an email will also be sent. So we're going to send an email back to the requestor. I could actually even add on here, maybe I want to add the approver on here also, just so that they can have kind of that visibility. And I can say your device has been approved. And in the subject, I may say this device has been approved. Here's the response from your manager. Voila. Similarly, if we reject it, if they hit no, then it'll follow a similar path. So doing something like this just saves so much time, so much email back and forth. And there's literally countless applications of this in any finance group.
So Corey, thanks for showing us that. I'd love to also maybe share with our audience what this real example looks like from a Microsoft perspective. Do you mind walking us through that?
Of course. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen again. Here you can see our ProcureWeb SharePoint site, where we literally stood this up about a year ago now for our entire company to be able to come in and request things like monitors, keyboards, and mice, as I mentioned before. And the app, the real app, some screenshots so you can see it. looked very similar to the ones that I just showed you, although we had more fields, right? We had some drop downs about the employee themselves and some justification. We also allowed them to go in and, mention what kind of monitor they're using. And then once they come in here and select what they need, a monitor, keyboard, mouse, etc., they submit request and they get a quick notification in the app that says it's been submitted. And so that will then kick off that Power Automate flow that we just showed you how we built it. So here on this screen, we'll see the exact email that a manager would receive as soon as that submission is entered into the app. They'll see a very simple email. It'll have information. We've even put links to, some of the documents, policies, etc. But down here, we've populated the fields in this table in the way that I just showed you by submitting some of these fields directly from the Common Data Service. We include, the requester name, the price, all these details, but we X out some details for privacy reasons. We've built that logic in as well, and then at the bottom, you see that simple approve or reject button, and as soon as the manager, in this case Rosalia, hits approve, it'll set off that second set of flows that I showed you, and they'll get a quick notification that their response approve has been successfully registered, and the employee will receive an email telling them that they've been approved. And then what we did actually in the real example was we then sent the approved request to a SharePoint site that our procurement team then manages, so they can see all these orders coming in from hundreds, thousands of people across Microsoft, and they use these to triage the requests. And the other tool that they use really heavily is Power BI. So here's our work from home buying program dashboard, actually a snapshot that was taken about a year ago, about 11 months ago. So, we don't feel too bad sharing it, not too confidential at this point, but you kind of get an idea, even a month in, the volume of data that this Power Platform solution was handling. And now 11 months in, we've literally delivered thousands upon thousands of devices to thousands of employees in all of our locations around the world. So it's been a huge impact for us. We built it all in, as you can see, I think the initial prototypes in 3 days. We scaled to 110 countries, and we're able to fulfill requests in about 2.5 days, which is pretty phenomenal.
Thanks, Corey, and thanks for sharing that awesome demo with us. I can actually attest to using the work from home program to request a device, so I can really, tell you how easy it was, and it's great to know that we built that with the Power Platform. You did it in 3 days, which is phenomenal.
Corey, thanks for showing us that really amazing demo that ties the pieces together. So, if a customer wants to get started, what's the call to action for them, and how can they get this going?
Yeah, we'd love to invite people to go visit us on our newly launched webpage on Microsoft.com, where you can actually learn more about some of these approaches that we take, some of the solutions that we've built. And also, we'd love to hear from you. So if any of this is interesting, feel free to reach out and we can set up time to chat offline. The second one is we're really excited about our first ever finance CFO focused webinar or conference as a company. It's called Finance Reimagined on February 24th. And so we invite everybody to go register for that and tell your friends. We'd love to have as many people as possible join us.
What we've learned is today's challenges faced in any finance organization and why Microsoft decided to prioritize modernizing our finance operations and shift our approach.
By adopting innovative technologies and a modern productivity platform, we saw how our finance team used real-time collaboration as part of the earnings release process, in addition to the capabilities of the Power Platform to rapidly build solutions to manage a variety of finance use cases.
Then we saw a demo showing how Microsoft Finance team leverages Microsoft product and business intelligence tools to create the lowest TCO environment, integrating for simplicity while having intelligent security.
Really great stuff here, Edwin. Let's move to Q&A. What are some of our viewers asking?
All right, so we have a question here from Anonymous. Corey, I think this might be for you. How did Microsoft get started? Shifting for financial organizations is pretty difficult. And what does it take for a financial organization to take that first step?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's not very difficult. It's not as difficult as you would think. I think one of the big takeaways we've learned is just to get started somewhere. You have probably people in your organization that are early adopters. Perhaps you yourself are an early adopter of technology. And what we found is that with very little training, just a few hours even, people can learn some of the basic skills that they need to get started with these tools. Many of the tools you probably own and you're probably able to use, or some of them are have free aspects to them anyway. So we encourage you to go check them out. For us internally, we've launched what we call our finance learning paths, which give people a little bit of a systematic way to go through and learn some of these tools. We built those learning paths by harnessing trainings that are out available to everybody on different platforms. We just combine them and curate them in one place. But we leverage trainings heavily from the Microsoft Learn platform, which Microsoft launched a year or so ago. You can find it at aka.ms/learn, and it has great trainings on all these Power Platform tools. We also leverage LinkedIn Learning, which is another great resource. And there's some awesome stuff just on YouTube. Actually, Guys in a Cube is our favorite for some Power BI training, and there's so much good stuff out there. So it really isn't very difficult. We just encourage you to get started, and we'd love to see what you build.
Thanks, Corey. We've got another question in the chat window and I think this is probably best for you, Amal. So the question is around customers that have different use cases maybe outside of finance. Could you share some examples in financial services industry where we could leverage some of these modern productivity tools to achieve other business objectives and other goals?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm glad somebody asked it. Because if you see what Satya said a few months back, is COVID has actually accelerated the digital transformation journey. In 2 months, we saw 2 years worth of transformation. And that's very true. If you look at these tools, it has use cases much beyond finance as well. Like, for example, Teams can be used as I said, single pane of glass for all your business processes. I can imagine back office operations associate doing clearance and settlement in a wealth management using Teams, as well as collaborating with the team members. I can imagine board of directors looking at their environmental, social, and governance calculator right on Teams, all at the same time collaborating with the rest of the associates. I also see, for example, in future, it could be commercial banking of the future, where commercial bankers, relationship managers can actually manage their day on Teams through the dashboards, through their customer insight, through their employee insight, through their training, through their travel, everything in one place, at the same time collaborating with the team. So I see many such use cases evolving in future, and we would love to help you with that. We'd love to do the art of possible with you as well.
Looks like we're out of time. Thanks again for attending via YouTube or watching live and asking questions.
If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for FSI notifications and invites by visiting aka.ms/FSI Fridays.
We're also open to constructive feedback. Please send us your comments and suggestions at aka.ms/FSI Fridays feedback.
Be sure to catch our previous sessions on our FSI Fridays YouTube channel at aka.ms/FSI Fridays recap, where you can also post any follow-up questions that weren't covered today.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Edwin, we have an awesome lineup for the rest of Finance February. Why don't you give an audience a preview of what's happening over the next coming weeks?
That's right, Johansson. So next week on February 19, we'll have our monthly Partner Solution Showcase, joined by Marcel Gordon and Dan Donovan from Shift Technology to learn more about Shift's innovative solution that leverages AI and advanced data science to put insurers on the path to better decision making.
You won't want to miss it.
Thanks, and see you next time
on FSI Fridays.
Thank you.